Hi everyone. Thought I'd do a short tutorial here on tablature. Now that we're starting to play more lines and riffs in our songs, I thought it'd be really beneficial because I know there's a few folks that either struggle with tablature or don't know how to read it at all. And so I thought we would just kind of jump into this and start with a basic outline of what it is and how to use it. So again, tablature. Two big questions are probably, what is it? And second of all, why is it used? So let's take a look at that. There's a really good definition of tablature when I looked it up to answer the question of what is it? What is tablature? Tablature is a form of notating fingering instead of pitch. Fingering instead of pitch. So whereas in music, they're just giving you a note and say, that's the note that we want you to play, tablature is more concerned about saying, this is where we want your finger to be. Knowing that if your finger's in the right place, you're going to play the right note. So it still accomplishes the same thing. So you might ask yourself, why is it used? Why don't we just write the notes? Well, this finger in the right place kind of follows into that. Now on a piano, if you would take, for instance, middle C, which is right pretty much in the middle of the keyboard there, the 88 keys, that's the only middle C. And if you saw that in a piece of music, there's only one note on that piano that can play that note. So you have to play it there. There's no confusion, there's no question, that is where it's played. Not so on stringed instruments. As an example, so we're going to be using a G scale here, okay? But it happens that in the G scale, that note there happens to be a D. Now the problem is this note is also a D, the very same D. And not only that, that's the same D. So we have this D, this one, and this one. So if you saw a D on a piece of music, which one would you play? Tablature takes care of that. It's going to tell you exactly where it wants you to be, usually because of either where you're coming from or where you're going to. So that's why tablature is used. String instruments have the ability to play the exact same note in different places. All right? So now let's take a look at tablature on your sheet. Now, the best tablature is not only going to have the tablature, tab is what we call it short, it's not only going to have the tab, but above it, it's going to have either the music notated out in note form, or at least it's going to have the rhythm, because that's the problem with tablature on its own. It's telling you where to play, but it doesn't tell you how long to play or what the rhythm is within the line. Music will do that, the actual music notation, or rhythm notation. Rhythm notation is usually done on one line, and it's just kind of a funny note. It's a longer note, and you can either do like whole notes, quarter notes, dotted, and you can notate rhythm. Drums use it all the time. So you could put a rhythm notation above your tablature showing you how the notes are played. My tablature happens to do both. It has the tab, it does the note notation above it in actual music. So if you walked over to a piano and played the line, it's exactly what you're being asked to play on the ukulele. Not only that, but I also have the ability to tell you which finger to use on which specific note, okay? So let's get into this and take a look at it. Now, I think where most of the problem comes for people reading tablature is that when we learn ukulele, guitar, baritone ukulele, we start at the bottom here. And I know in my James Hill course, they said, why do you start at the bottom? That's the first floor. If you were building a building, you start at the bottom. That's the first string. Then if you add the second story, that's the second string. And then as you go up, you add the third and the fourth. So this is a linear motion, like up and down, just like a building. This is the low part, it's below us, and it's coming up. Now the problem with that is when you go over to the tablature and you look at it, the tablature follows the music. Music follows pitch. If you're on your staff lines, as it goes up on the staff, the note gets higher. And then as it comes down, it gets lower. Well, the problem is they want the tablature to follow that, because it would look funny as the notes went higher if the tablature was going lower. That visually is really strange. So they wanted it to do the same thing. However, what that does, it completely turns upside down your string numbers. So whereas this is our number 1 string on the ukulele, if you look at your tab, the very top line of the tab is number 1. This is our 2nd string. Go down from the top, that's the 2nd string. This is our 3rd coming up, go down to the 3rd string, and finally all the way down is the 4th string on the tablature, because again, this is pitch, they're looking at low. For us, it's the highest string up. So I'm almost positive that when people get into tab, that's the first thing that creates the problem. So what I would do if you're starting off is go right over to your tablature on the tab line, it says TAB. I would start at that top line and put 1, 2, 3, and you should have 4 for the very last string. Those are your string numbers that correlate to your ukulele, although they're completely reversed. One is on top on the tab, one is on the bottom here. And once you understand that, and if you think of this as music, it kind of makes sense, because you know when you're playing your ukulele, as you went like this, you're going to get higher. Well, that's exactly what the music is going to do as well. It's going by pitch, not by the visualness and what you've learned. This is the bottom, but it's the top on tab. I hope I explained that right, but I'm pretty sure that that's where the confusion comes in. So let's take a look at this and see what we have. I've done a basic G scale. I wanted to use that, and okay, so now let's take a look at this. So remember, we start at the top for our first string. If we look at the tab, we count down 1, 2. First note we have is on the 3rd string, starting from the top, 1, 2, 3, happens to be an open string. 3rd string, open. We go over here, 1, 2, 3. So that's our G string, open. Now the very next note we have is on that 3rd string, 2nd fret. Now on my tab, I can not only tell you which fret you're going to put down, I can also tell you what finger to use. And on this specific one, I wanted to use the 2nd finger, and you'll see why in a moment. So our first 2 notes are open 3rd string, 2nd fret, 3rd string, okay? Now the very next note jumps up, because we're going up in pitch. Start at the top, 1, 2, it's our 2nd string, okay? And it's open. Then 1st fret, which happens to be 1st finger, okay? So our very first line is on the 3rd string, open, 2, now we go to the 2nd string, and then let's add in the 3rd fret with the 3rd finger on that 2nd string, and now we jump up to the 1st string, top of the tab, bottom of the ukulele, open, 2nd fret, like that. Okay, so I think that's where the confusion, once you get used to the fact of when you look at the tablature, it's following the music, it's just the strings are reversed. The top of the tab is your 1st string, and it just goes 1, 2, 3, 4, where when we look at our uke, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you get that worked around, then I think that's going to solve some of the issue. So let's set our metronome here. I think I've got this set around 52 for the quarter notes that I've got, and we're just going to walk through this, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to play... We're going to just let this go 4 beats, okay? I know that's silly, but we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, boom. And that's going to be our 2nd note to have time to look at this and get this figured out, okay? So we're going to start with the 3rd string. Count on your tab, 1, 2, 3, open note. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Now the 2nd fret on that 3rd string, 2, now the 2nd string open, 2, 3, and now the 1st fret, stay on that 2nd string, third fret, third finger, 2, 3. Now the first string open, 2, second fret on the first string, 2, and finally the third fret on the first string, okay? So that's what the tab looks like over there, all right? So again, the thing to get used to, and I would number it on the tab, you could even on both ends of the music, 1, 2, 3, 4, go to your other end, 1, 2, 3, 4. That correlates to your first string, second string, third string, and fourth string, okay? Hope that helps, and we'll be talking about this at rehearsals, and take a dive into tablature.